joys about real estate and one of the big reasons why I got in this industry to begin with.
That had to feel very powerful for him, to be the first in your
Yeah.
family, not only just doing it for yourself, but be the first in your family.
And I never knew like the story behind the two staircases, so I thought it was a little bizarre.
My name is Kevin McIntosh, and this is The Closing Table, where we talk to experts about their experience in real estate all across the country. Let's go. Welcome back to The Closing Table. My name is Kevin C. McIntosh. I am your host this morning, afternoon/evening, and joining us on this episode, we have the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Justin Annis. How are you, Justin?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to this.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you for accepting our invitation and taking time out of your very busy schedule to be with us today. We always have to acknowledge that. But we're here to talk real estate here at The Closing Table, Justin, so let's get into it. Starting off with getting to who you are as a person, man. So I'd like to ask you this in 60 seconds or less, Justin. Can you tell us who you are outside of real estate?
Yeah, so outside of real estate, I'm a dog dad. So it's just me and my dog. We live in Toledo, got a house together and whatnot. Of course, when I'm not doing real estate, I'm either in the gym, playing golf, hanging out with family, friends, just being active one way or the other.
Nice. I love to identify that people have a life outside of their profession and they're still living, breathable, touch people that you can touch. So yeah, it's good to hear, Justin. So, your business, real estate wise, I want you to kind of like, if you can kind of like describe it for us a little bit. How would you describe your real estate profession? Can you give us a little bit of details about how long you've been licensed, how you describe your specialty, any notable achievements, things of that nature?
Yeah, so I've been licensed since May of 2019. I actually passed the exam on my birthday, so May 15th. So
Hey.
it'll always be a big day for me, to say the
Mm-hmm.
least. So with it, I work a lot with first-time home buyers. It's kind of my niche right there, just because my generation, we're all getting into the phase in life where we are looking to buy a house and
Mm-hmm.
settle down, get married, have kids, the whole nine yards. So that's where a lot of my business is and comes from, is pretty much, first time home buyers and those type of things. But I'm also focusing on the listing side and being a seller representative specialist one way or the other. So helping people who are looking to downsize or even upsize. Those are kind of my specialties right there in a
Nice.
nutshell.
Nice. Love that. Love that. Especially the fact that you work with first time home buyers. I know some people don't necessarily, I don't want to say they shy away, but some agents like to prefer to work with experienced buyers or sellers. That way they don't have to go through the baby steps, walking people through, holding their hand type process. But it's good that we do have agents such as yourself who are dedicated to first time home buyers. You mentioned that you are in the Toledo market. Interesting market. I've never been to myself, but let's talk about it because I see they have a mixture of industries, manufacturing, healthcare, education going on there in Toledo. So how does this local economy influence real estate trends? And then second part of that question, are there certain times of the year where you see increased activity due to relocation and graduation in the workforce?
Yeah, so Northwest Ohio, which includes Toledo, yes, several industries like you mentioned. I definitely see it playing a role because with our market, the Toledo market specifically, we
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of investors who are looking to dive into the market, find investment properties where they can either rent it out to travel and nurses or even union workers such as pipe fitters who travel to our BP refinery to work. So I have
Mm.
investors who are looking for properties where they can accommodate those industries and those people that are traveling for work. And I've been seeing a lot more of that, especially as of late. And when our prime time, it's typically in the summer, because especially too for kids who are going to UT or Bowling Green, even
Okay.
both of our big universities in the area. You have a lot of time people looking to buy a house for them specifically, whether it's like a family member and or investors again looking to rent it out for off-campus housing and those type of things. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, I would say like, in the summertime and all the way up until about October. That's when things are really busy and that's when the most transactions happen. And then of course
Mm.
in the winter it starts slowing down a little bit, but still a good time for, investors to get properties or even just first time home buyers or anyone just looking in the market type of thing.
I get it. I get it. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So you say BP has a factory out there, or they have manufacturing out there? I should
Yeah,
say
they have a refinery which is
refinery.
in
That's the
Oregon,
word.
Ohio. So it's
Okay.
probably about 20-30 minutes away from Toledo itself. But yeah, we have a lot of pipe fitters and those type of people who are coming into the area for work. And I know
Mm.
like a lot of my investors, that's majority of their tenants is where they rent out like a room for a few months or something along those lines.
Interesting. Never knew that was going on in Toledo, but it seems like
Yeah.
it's like we stated before. It's a lot of industries there providing good jobs and things of that nature. I was today years old when I found out there's an Oregon, Ohio, by the way. That's
Oh
a city in
yeah.
Ohio. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. You kind of threw me off when you said that. Okay, interesting. Hey, throughout your career, throughout your professional real estate career, pretty sure you've met some people who are potential clients, potential leads that were a little bit skeptical of the process at first, but they had some interest. But then maybe you had to use your professionalism to kind of ease them into actually going through with the transaction. You have any instances like that?
Yeah, I've actually had one recently where it was an older couple, but they're looking to find a ranch. So they both
Mm,
have had their own houses, and they were just they're getting ready to get married. So now they're like, okay, let's find a house together, settle down. But one of their big issues was they're like, okay, there's a lack of inventory right now. If we were to, sell our houses and look to buy something, we want it to be where we're not going to be homeless at the end of the day
right.
because a lot of times it may take a while to find the right house. So, right then and there, we sat down, we came up with a game plan to where we're like, hey, let's get in touch with the lender first and foremost, see where we're at, and then we can construct a game plan based off what they said. So, what we ended up doing is we were fortunate to where they didn't have to sell their houses in order to buy. So we started searching for homes right away. We ended
Mm-hmm.
up finding one that they loved, and it worked out perfectly because once we closed on their new house, then we listed their two houses right away. But it gave
Mm,
them peace of mind because they're worried that, hey, if we're going to sell our home, we need somewhere to go. And they've heard like horror stories where someone sells their house and then next thing you know they're paying the new owners rent just to live in it so they can find something and not have to
mm.
live out of a hotel or a family member's house or something along those lines. So for me to be able to have the knowledge that I have and for us to be able to sit down and come up with a game plan that matched everyone their needs and wants so that way we can make their goals happen. It played a big role and I know it worked out perfectly. It doesn't always, but in this
Yep.
instance, thankfully it did.
Yep. And that's good that it wasn't a situation where they needed to buy a home before they sold a home or the other way around. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it seems like it was a great situation that you were in because they bought the home first. Then they were like, okay, cool. Now that we have our home, we can sell our homes. And were you involved in not only helping them get another home, but you also listed both of their properties?
Yep, I listed
Oh,
both of them, and yeah, it was great because the marketing I did, we drew in a lot of traffic. So literally, within a weekend, we had 40 plus showings on each home, and we
ooh.
had multiple offers. And after sitting down and going through all the offers, they both accepted one that was literally perfect and made the
Mm-hmm.
process seamless. So it was great.
Yeah, I imagine if you have 40 different offers between two different properties, you would definitely have one that will probably fit exactly what you want. So, yeah, that sounds about
Right.
right. I'm glad you touched on your marketing a little bit. I want to segue into that because obviously marketing plays a significant role in anybody's transaction, any agent's transaction, I should say. But can you talk about where you use some creative marketing strategies to list a home? And can you talk about what you do to actually make your marketing stand out from the competitive market also?
Yeah, so what I like to do, and especially with like listings and whatnot, is I like to go for quality mailers. So I get
Mm.
quality postcards where They're like the thick, glossy ones, really, really nice.
Yeah.
Pay a little bit of a premium for them, but it's worth it because I've had one instance where I sent out a postcard and a lady in the neighborhood, she wasn't looking to do anything like buy or sell real estate, but she literally gave me a call just to compliment me on the postcards and say how nice it was and everything.
Nice.
So, right there, that spoke volume on, doing direct mail and doing postcards. But on top of it, too, I like to do a lot of videos to showcase a property, whether I'm doing an open house or even more so just kind of like a virtual walkthrough. So that way people
Mm-hmm.
can almost get like a sneak peek before actually coming to take a look at it. And of course, too, it gives additional eyes on the property, especially for people who are out of state and can't come physically see the house. Doing video along those lines, that definitely helps out. But yeah, I mean, with my marketing, I always try to go for quality things. So whether it's videos, professional photography, postcards that are high quality. That's what I try to do because, some instances there's agents who may take a cheaper route or may not
Mm-hmm.
go above and beyond like how
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing. So that right there alone helps me stand out, in my opinion. And my clients appreciate it because they see everything that I do and I make sure I send them a copy of everything. So that way they know that I'm getting busy and I'm not just kicking back with my feet up, just waiting for an offer to
Yeah.
come through the door type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that for so many different reasons. One, you don't hear too many people. I'm not going to say you don't hear too many people use direct mailers, but you don't necessarily hear people talk about it and talk about how effective it is.
Right.
It's pretty much the law of averages that you're running with that also. The more that you put out, the greater of a chance you have someone not only look at it, but respond to it also. You can get
Right.
someone to look at it and, like you said, maybe they're not in the market to buy or sell now, but they say, oh, this is so nice. I know someone who's looking to buy or sell. Let me refer them to this person because they sent such a luxurious direct mailer or whatever the case may be. And then I thought about also a time where I got a business card from someone and it was metal. It was a metal business card. And I never saw anything like that before. And that stood
Right.
out to me. I think it was a barber, if I'm not mistaken. This was years back. I said, whoa, a metal business card. Like, I wanted to keep it in my wallet just to kind of show everybody else. That's how crazy. Like, I've never seen and they spend money on it. So it's
Right.
things like that. Those small things, those small little, tactics, methods that can really get people's attention and keep their attention and spread the word about your business. I think that's a great method if you ask me personally.
Yeah.
It's overlooked. Rewards or rewarding relationships you've built with people. Any situation where you might have helped a client in a transaction and as a result, you've built a rapport with them, built a relationship that probably extended beyond the actual transaction. Anything you could share?
Yeah, so it's actually one of my past clients. I love the relationship we have because we're super close now. Like they invite me to family cookouts, graduation parties, and everything.
Mm,
And it's funny because the way that we met is I had a listing here in Toledo, and they ended up calling me off my sign. So they drove by and was like, "Oh, we want to check it out and whatnot." So what went from a random conversation ended up turning into like a lifelong friendship because this couple, they're an older couple, they got me by a couple generations, so they're probably like
that
60, 70 years old
was
and
well
I'm
put.
27. Yeah, right. So it's a group of people that you wouldn't expect to be friends type of thing.
Yeah,
Like
yep.
if you saw us walking
Mm-hmm.
by, you'd be like, "Huh, that's bizarre." But after helping them find their forever home and selling their previous home that was in the old West End, which is super historic area. The house has so much character. So I was thrilled to be a part of that. But after both transactions, that's when the relationship just kept going because when I
Mm.
got my puppy, they were like, "Oh my goodness, we want to check them out and say hi." So I went over there for a cookout with my dog, and these clients, John and Pam, they know my family, so that relationship is
Yeah.
truly great because that shows the joys about real estate. And one of the big reasons why I got in this industry to begin with is because I like meeting new people, making new friends, and this instance was a perfect example of that and why I love what I do.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I love that you're open enough to, be friend, not only just be friends, but just build a relationship with any and everybody beyond the actual transaction too. And, even though like you said, well put, they had you by a few generations, that's still,
Yeah,
to the outside eye, they may think, what are they doing? Is that their grandson? Is that their son, or whatever the case may be? But no, it's a genuine relationship between three human beings that we have some common ground, and we could talk about things. We can actually, what I'm
right.
saying, talk about, like I said, talk about things, build a relationship. So I love to talk about that, and I love that identify the generational gap between the two too. That makes it
Yeah.
interesting. I see that you have a few different certifications as a real estate professional. I want you to kind of talk on each of those, if you can, and just talk about an example of how each designation played a role in a specific client's journey. And I see you have the property stager consultant, pricing strategy advisor, and seller representative specialist. Can you talk about each one, if you please?
Yeah, so the first one I got was being a professional property staging consultant. And the
Mm-hmm.
main reason why I went and got that one is because, when it comes to listing a home, there's ways that you can make a house feel more inviting and welcoming and more just comfortable for anyone who's looking at it. So I went ahead and got that certification just because I wanted to be able to extend my services and take it to the next level, which I feel like is getting these certifications and
Mm-hmm.
designations, because taking the time to do the extra training and to learn these things definitely makes a huge difference, because not only can I help sellers get their house ready for the market and pictures, but I can also go into one of my buyers' houses and they're like, man, what should we do with this space? And then I can use that knowledge and what I learned to give some recommendations, whether it's paint colors or just how you arrange furniture. So that one definitely plays a role every single day just because of that reason. The pricing strategy advisor, that one is great just because it works with both buyers and sellers. So when a buyer is looking at a house and if they decide that they do want to pursue it and write an offer, I can use what I've learned through my pricing strategy advisor course to be like, okay, well, let's look at comparable properties in the area to make sure that we write an offer that's strong enough, but that it's going to actually appraise that. Because a lot of times someone may write an offer 30 grand over list price, but the odds of that home appraising is next to none just
Mm-hmm.
because it's not the market value and it's not the value the appraiser comes up with. So for me to be able to go in depth with buyers and sellers on what a home should be priced at and what it can go up to based on market statistics, comparable properties, and my knowledge. It definitely helps them out because they know at the end of the day that they're not overpaying for a house, and the sellers know at the end of the day that they're getting their house priced correctly to where it's not going to be sitting and they can get multiple offers and get it under contract and move on to the next chapter of life. And then that's when the seller representative specialist designation comes in play too, because at that point, when it comes to listing a home and everything that goes into selling a home, it's a lot. A lot of people overlook it, but taking that course, it's helped me be able to properly represent the seller, make sure we have all the right documents in place, all the right addendums, just make sure paperwork's good. They're getting represented to the best of my ability and professionally, which is what that designation ended up teaching, was
Mm-hmm.
just to how to represent them correctly, professionally, and to make sure that, as a seller and a realtor, we're on the same page, we got the same game plan and the same goals.
Interesting. Interesting. It wasn't until you just kind of broke them down that I really started looking at the different titles and realized, oh, each one is pretty much for a different side of the transaction, minus the pricing strategy advisor, because that definitely works for both sides, the buyer and the
Right.
seller. But then obviously the seller representative specialist, you're working with the seller, and then with the property stager consultant, that usually only comes in handy for someone who's buying a property to kind of give them a visual. So as you were talking, I started to make that connection like, oh, you're covering both ends of the closing table.
Oh
No pun
yeah.
intended. Great work there. I see what you did. I see what you did, Justin. Okay. Hey, so have you ever come across a property that had fascinating history, unusual history background, or something that maybe they shot a movie there, maybe a president gave a speech in front of there, or somebody tripped on these porches and they were famous? I don't know. Any stories you can share with some fascinating backgrounds on properties?
Yeah, so the one property that I mentioned earlier, the old West End house, that
Right.
one, so nothing crazy ever happened there, but the way the house was built and how like the rooms are separated, it's unique. So it's old West End. There's a lot of character in these houses, and then this house specifically, I remember when I first walked in, there were two different staircases, and I was like, huh, why is there two different staircases to go upstairs? One is like a grand one, you have the banisters, and it looks good, and then the other one is off the kitchen, and it's kind of like a spiral staircase that leads directly upstairs to the attic. And when I asked my sellers about it, I was like, what's kind of the history behind this? Because I don't know. But then
Mm,
that's when they told me that back in the day, they uh, they used to have a maid's quarter up in the attic. So that's part of the reason why like this
wow.
attic was massive, had like its own bedroom up there and everything, but it also has a separate staircase that leads directly down to the kitchen. So kind of the history behind it is the owners, they would use the grand staircase with like the banisters and everything that's right off the formal living room.
Mm-hmm.
And the other staircase was for like the maids. So it goes directly to the kitchen because the maids would be in there cooking, cleaning, and those type of things. And then whenever they have to go back up to their room, they didn't use like the grand staircase. They had to use their own spiral staircase to get upstairs. So I thought that was kind of interesting because I've never seen it and I've never knew like the story behind the two staircases. So I thought it was a little bizarre there.
Yeah, it definitely bizarre. I'm thinking like, yeah, okay, so you can come down here and cook my food, but don't walk up the same stairs as me. You got your own stairs. Go to your room. Immediately go to
Literally.
your room after you make my plate.
It's so crazy.
Oh my
Times were
god.
different.
Go to your room after you make my plate. I'm I'm joking, but that is neat though. I've only seen I've seen one house recently that had two staircases going upstairs. Seems weird at first, but I'm not gonna lie, it seems kind of baller too. It's kind of baller. I don't know
I
why.
know. That's why it's like you got two different ways
I
to
know
go. I
it's
thought it was
kind of
pretty
baller.
cool.
I
I was
gotta
like,
stop
huh.
hating. Yeah, I gotta stop hating. That's baller. So yeah, that's neat though. That's neat. With Toledo specifically though, the market is relatively affordable. And there's only so many markets in the country you can really say that about. Like Detroit is another one of those. But focusing on Toledo and its affordability, can you discuss how the affordability in this market kind of impacts the types of clients that you work with, as well as the range of properties that are available? And then can you talk about maybe a time where you assisted some first time home buyers to get into a home that they couldn't even believe they could afford?
Yeah, so with Lucas County, like our average price point is roughly 155, 156,000. So
Woo.
super affordable, especially
Mm-hmm.
if you look elsewhere, such as Ann Arbor even. Ann Arbor, the same house here would be $800,000 there,
Oh
and then
no.
same if you go like out west to like California, then you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at like a million plus, you know?
Easily.
So super affordable, and because of that reason, that's when we start getting a lot of out of state and even out of country investors in our marketplace. So
Mm.
people who live in California, who live in Oregon, who live in Chicago, Florida, or wherever they may be, but they look at our market because of the affordability. And then that's where, if you were to look at majority of the houses that are owned, they're more than likely owned by an LLC or an investor or
Mm.
a group of some sort because of that reason. So that's a lot of our clientele, our investors, and then of course it's great with our affordability for first time home buyers. So back in the day, I used to think buying a house, you have to pay an arm and a leg to make it happen. Like everything has to be perfect. You have to make a bunch of money to be able to afford a home and so on and so forth. But when I got into real estate, that's when I noticed it's completely different. That's just, I want it's not an illusion, but it's like an illusion for me because now
Mm-hmm.
once I realize how affordable it is, it's perfect. So like first time home buyers, I've had a guy who's 19, so young guy,
Man.
fresh out of high school, but he's been saving up and for a house because he's like, by the time I'm 20, 21, I want to have my own home. I want to be the first in my family to own a house rather than rent in the whole 9 yards. So once I met with him, we sat down, we came up with a game plan, and we were able to find him a beautiful house. It was probably, I believe it was like 120,000, maybe a little bit less, but he
Mm.
realized that it can be done. And we ended up closing on that. And he was the first in his family to own a home at 19, fresh out of high school. And it was truly a beautiful thing. And I was thankful for the opportunity because I love when I see like the younger generation being as young as, I mean, granted, I'm not super young by no means or old, but being able to see a 19-year-old purchase a home and be able to, it was a great feeling.
Yeah, man, I bet. So is that the youngest client you've ever worked with to get a home?
Yep, 19, yeah, because he was
Nice.
fresh 19 too. Like he turned, I think it was a couple months after his birthday is when we first sat
Man.
down and
Oh.
got the process rolling.
A fresh 19, still smell the Similac on his breath. Man,
Oh yeah,
congratulations though for getting him a
right.
home. I know that had to felt very powerful for him. To
Yeah,
be
he
the
was
first in your
ecstatic.
family, not only just doing it for yourself, but be the first in your family to do that. Man, well done, well done. I'm glad you were able to help him with that. But you also mentioned something in regards to used to thinking that affording a home was you had to have a lot of money and there was a lot of things. And when you were saying that, I'm thinking like, is that not the case now? but it can be, but not necessarily. So that brings me to my next question. Knowing what you know today and using today's resources and the knowledge that you have today, what approach would you take to owning your first home in today's market?
Yeah, so the first thing I would do is talk to a lender because once you speak to a lender, then they can help you come up with a game plan. Like, okay, let's say I have to save up a few extra $1,000 over the course of a year or two, and then I'll be able to purchase a home. But you won't know that until you submit an application and actually have that conversation with somebody. So that'd
Mm,
be the first and foremost thing that I would do because if you were to reach out to an agent first and foremost, that's also great because then from there we can point you in the right direction. But you don't want to look at any houses or anything until you have that conversation with a lender. Because too, if you were to go find a house that's let's say 200,000, it's great, checks all the boxes. You go look at it, you're in love, and you want to write an offer. Then we speak to the lender, and they're like, "Hey, you're only approved for 175, so you can't
mm.
write that $200,000 offer." And then they feel like their hopes and dreams are just crumbled. So that's why talking to a lender, getting that ball rolling first and foremost is key, just because you learn what you can afford, you learn what you have to do if you can't buy a home right now, but you can at least have a game plan in place to where you can in the near future type of thing.
Yeah. No, that would really suck kind of going the other way, finding a home first, seeing what the price is, only to find out that you're approved for something significantly less than that. That would be very, very
Right.
crushing. But, some people, surprisingly enough, I don't want to say take that route, but they kind of do, where they want to start looking for homes first. And they want to identify what they like and where they like it. Okay, this is the home we want. Now let's go look and see if we can we can afford it. Or they already think that they
Right.
can, so then they go backwards like that. So, and that's why I like where our guests kind of go on here and explain. Most agents come on here and say, you go to a lender first and
Yes.
foremost. Find out what you can afford, what your buying power is. Then you go out there and try to buy. So find out what your
Right.
buying power is, and then you see how powerful your buying power is when you get to the market. And that's all guided with a trusted agent such as yourself, Justin.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. So, hey, man, Justin, thank you so much for accepting our invitation again, pulling up a chair right here to the closing table and dropping those gems, giving us the game and the knowledge. We appreciate that. At this point, if you have any last words and or want to tell people how to reach out to you, please do so now.
Of course. So yeah, thanks for having me on, Kevin.
Yeah.
It's truly a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to me, feel free to check out my Facebook, facebook.com/JustinAnisRealtor. Instagram is JA Real Estate Group as well. Yeah, feel free. Like I said, I'm in Northwest Ohio, so if anyone needs any type of assistance buying, selling, or just has questions about the area, feel free. Give me a call, send me a text to 419-279-7768.
All righty. Appreciate that again, Justin. Thank you for coming here. And for our YouTube audience watching right now, if you got to this point in the video, do us both a favor and hit the like button. Looks just like that. A thumb with the, finger with the thumb up, or whatever the case may be. Make sure you also share the content. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. And if you are listening on Apple, Spotify, any other podcast platforms, please do the same. Give us a like, a 5-star rating, and subscribe for our latest content. And Justin, I'm going to leave a question for our audience on the way out of the chat. So this is for you, audience. Do you still reach out to your real estate agent for help with house-related issues after closing? Or does your agent reach out to you randomly? Don't tell us now. Leave it in the comments below. Besides that, we'll talk to you next time.